introduced some of the different types of lines and their angles and attributes, we're going to dive into how to draw these lines. So remember, you have that chart on page 561 in your journal. If you need to refer back to that, it's a useful tool, or the video before this could be helpful as well. So here I have a statement. It says, draw and label ray yx that's perpendicular to ray yz intersecting at point y. Okay, that's a lot to take in. So what I want you to do is I want you to read through this again on your own. You can read it out loud, read it in your head, whatever works for you, and really visualize, what are we going to be drawing? Okay, so let's break this down. I see ray yx, so I'm going to start there. But I know that ray yx is going to be perpendicular, because that symbol perpendicular, to ray yz, and they're going to intersect at point y. So it's important that I think about that before I start drawing. So here's my ray, okay? So I'm going to draw, here is ray yx. We'll label this. So we're going to label this y, right? Whoops, that didn't work. We're going to label this yx. Okay, and I have to have points that I'm labeling here, so I'm just going to draw them on. And this y I know is where I'm going to be intersecting my other ray, yz. So now let's draw my other ray. Okay, so we'll do ray yz. Okay, so there's my ray. I'm going to draw my point Z and label that. Okay, so let's take a look at this. Does it make sense? Well, I have ray yx is here, right? Ray yx goes that way. And then I have ray yz. They meet or intersect at point y. Now, will these lines create 4 right angles? Do they? Because remember, that's what the definition of perpendicular is. And I see that, yes, this would form a right angle, which means there would be 4 right angles. So yes, I think that I did this right. So now let's name this figure that we just drew. Okay, it's an angle. I'm going to try to erase all of these little drawings that I did here just to keep it a little bit more clean. So I'm going to name this angle. Get my pen tool here. It's an angle, right? I'm going to name it angle. I could call it angle Y, or I'm going to actually call it angle X, Y, Z. So that's the figure we drew. So angle XYZ is a right angle since ray YX and ray YZ are perpendicular. And we know that perpendicular rays form right angles. We are now going to look at this picture here, and we're going to identify some of these different terms. So we're looking for perpendicular lines, parallel lines, an acute angle, a right angle, an obtuse angle, and intersecting lines. This is on page 563 if you want to look at it in your journal. Okay, so let's look for perpendicular lines. And I remember perpendicular lines are lines that cross and form right angles. So I see right here line IM is perpendicular with line JM. So I'm going to write that. So line IM is perpendicular to line JM. That's my perpendicular symbol, right? Okay, let's move on to parallel lines. What lines are parallel? I want you to pause your video and identify parallel lines. And go ahead and try to write them using the correct symbol that we learned for parallel lines as well. Okay, so I hope you found line GK is parallel to line HK. L, right? They're the same distance apart at any point on that line, and they won't intersect. So those are parallel lines. Now let's jump over to intersecting lines. Okay, let's look for some intersecting lines. Now remember, intersecting lines are lines that cross on a plane at a point. So think about that and see if you can find intersecting lines. Pause your video and write down your pair of intersecting lines. So there were a couple different options you could have chosen. I'm going to choose line GK intersects with line JM at point K. So I'm actually going to type that because it's too much for me to write on here. So line GK intersects with JM at point K. All right, let's move on. Let's do an obtuse angle. Pause your video, find an obtuse angle, and write it down. I chose angle K. Now that's not the only one you could have chosen. You could have chosen angle L as well. So there's some obtuse angles, and I use that angle symbol. Let's move to an acute angle. Pause your video and write down an acute angle, or write down as many as you can. I chose angle L, and I know I could have called it angle L, or I could have called it angle HLM. So I'm just going to write that here. It's the same angle, but it's just different ways to name it. Excellent. And now we're going to do a right angle. So again, pause your video and write down one or more right angles you find in this. I found angle M. Right, there's my right angle, angle M. And that was actually, I knew that one because that was where we chose our perpendicular line. So we knew that that formed a right angle. Excellent work. Now you get to put all of this practice into your work today.